Hello, everyone. Welcome to another kinda strange episode for game stuff, cause we are not talking about games today. We are actually talking about a movie. That's right. And that movie would be Deadpool.
Movie we've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah. 4+ years for me, but it's been in the works for much longer than that, since 2004, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
So yeah, how to start this off. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give you about 15 minutes of maybe a brief spoiler-free review, then we're gonna go deep into the discussion of the actual movie where there will be a bunch of spoilers. So yeah, starting off, so what was your first, not initial reactions, but before you walked into this movie, what was you expecting?
Uh,
Or actually, I'm probably doing this wrong because, alright, review. um, alright, so let's start off by saying, like everyone's saying, it is a good movie.
it is.
It the story, if you've already watched the trailers, is pretty much gives it away, but this is an origin story. Um, and although that might make some people turn away, in my opinion, it was done rather well and not really that boring. It was kind of nice.
It was actually really well put together. It jumps around a lot, but it definitely puts the story together.
Yeah, it's really weird. You wouldn't think something like that would work very well, having jumping forward and back, and you think that would normally confuse the audience, but I don't know. They somehow made it work.
The jumping kind of fits the character, though. The way that they make the jumps happen in the movie really just fits the character.
Yeah. Now, as far as the story itself, nothing big. You don't expect too complex of a story. It's very simplified.
Yeah.
Which, in my opinion, it it didn't hurt it for me, but
No, not at all.
if I can, I'm sure it could have used a more complex story, but a lot of the times when you make a complex story, a lot of it kind of gets lost to the audience if it's too complex, and they just, I think, decided to try to play it safe and just kind of keep it kind of linear, I guess.
Yeah. It's a linear story. It moves forward, but it definitely does have some uh, parts that just go completely different directions.
However, with that said, the story is probably the weakest part of this movie, and I actually enjoyed how it was told, so it shouldn't be that much of a negative, I guess. But the story, I'd say, is definitely probably the weakest part, in my opinion. I don't know if you feel the same.
I would agree with that because it almost like this. I mean, it's like the story in the movie isn't the main focus.
Well,
But
yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, like the story's kind of a background thing in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
Anyways, and now we get to move on to, well, let's move on to how the characters were portrayed, because I just want to say everything felt kind of, I don't know, everyone kind of felt on the same level,
yeah,
but some of the characters didn't get much face time, which
yeah,
is kind of sad. Um, but I think what we got of the characters, for what they did rather well.
yeah. I think every character that was portrayed in the movie was portrayed pretty well. There wasn't like one that like a character that I was just like meh.
Well, I guess I kind of take it back. There was. I'm not even gonna. I do want to do something. Because I did not look up all the information. I want to make sure I pronounce these, the people playing in this movie right. So
Gotcha.
I'm gonna look up a cast list. I'd say the worst character in the movie probably is Gina Carano, who played Angel Dust.
Okay.
She was pretty much just a mute through most of the movie. She had about maybe a total of like 10 lines or something like that. Like 10 words, not actual sentences.
I agree with that.
I don't know why that is, but maybe they did it on purpose.
Yeah.
um
I don't know. It wasn't like terrible to the thing though.
yeah, I'm
Still,
kind of going backwards and getting to the main star, but then let's we got the from her we got also the main boss, which was played by Ed Screen or something like that. I am butchering his name, but he was basically he played the new Transporter in Transporter 3 instead of the original actor.
really.
Yes. Anyways,
I'm gonna have to look that up. It's interesting.
um, anyways, he played the main villain, Ajax. And honestly, his character was weakly built. Like, there wasn't much development with his character. But it's kind of like old comic book fashion, where a lot of comic books don't have very complex built villains usually, especially if they're one that is barely used, I guess. And well, pretty much he's just a mad scientist and a mad doctor, and just that's pretty much all he's got going for him, with a little bit of mutant powers. But he did, from the sound of the character, he is definitely sounds menacing. He is there pretty much for Deadpool to kill.
Basically.
Or to try to kill, anyways. And
I'm gonna say, I'm also gonna say spoiler alert from now on, just in case.
oh.
But yeah,
Would there be like something you like to add to that character?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it was more of like a weak character. I would have liked more backstory a little bit.
Right.
A little build into the character. He was just kind of thrown in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Then let's go ahead. The other two main ones was Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. I'm putting them two together because they was pretty much together the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
Very, very nice. Colossal plays an excellent opposite to Deadpool, which makes for some pretty nice comic relief between the two. And Deadpool even makes some pretty funny comments to Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
They definitely have an interesting relationship throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Because he's like established with Colossus and from the beginning. Like they hint towards they've had their run-ins. But he's never met the Negasonic Teenage Warhead yet. So when he does, he just kind of like, why are you here? You know?
To be fair, I don't think a lot of people know who Negasonic Teenage Warhead is.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's see. We got pretty much Deadpool's sidekick Weasel, which is played by T.J. Miller. I've never personally seen much of T.J. Miller, if anything at all. Not a big moviegoer here, I guess, but from what I hear, he's a pretty funny person. I'm not sure if his comedy necessarily does it for me. If his character played in this is similar to how he acts in other things. Quite honestly, I don't know. I think he sounded a bit too. I don't know. He sounded off to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to say nasally, because that's not what I'm looking for, but the way he talked just...
He had some funny lines. He just kind of was like... His character was almost like not needed a lot of times.
Okay.
Thrown in there as in like... It's kind of like an afterthought thing.
Yeah.
Is how his character felt.
Right.
But, and so that's weird because I had heard people talk about how they really liked T.J. Miller's character and they didn't like Ryan Reynolds.
Really?
I remember reading it somewhere that people wanted actually T.J. Miller to be Deadpool instead of Ryan Reynolds.
Huh. I don't think I'd like that, but to each their own.
Me too. I think Ryan Reynolds plays Deadpool quite nicely.
But yeah, we got Marina Baccarin and Ryan Reynolds, which plays basically the two kind of main stars in this thing. Which is basically the love story in this between the two. Wade Wilson and Vanessa.
Yeah.
Now, love story. That could be an easy term that turns away a lot of people with maybe wanting to see a superhero movie, because usually a love story is kinda the one thing that drags superhero movies down.
Yeah.
But in this, it's it's not even just tolerable, it's actually
It
pretty good.
it's the one thing that separates Deadpool from being just a excuse to make a joke throughout the movie,
Yeah.
and makes it into a character.
Yeah, basically, Vanessa is the person in this movie that gives it's the whole reason Wade Wilson does what he does in this movie.
Oh yeah, he if she wasn't if that character wasn't in the movie, he wouldn't have been Deadpool.
Yeah, at least in this origin story, anyways.
Yeah.
Now, how true to the comics does this stay true? Honestly, as many other people have said, this is probably the best comic to movie adaptation that there has been.
It's
and that's not just the rated R talking, though that does help, but there's about everything in this movie just feels almost from the comic, other than a few things I'll nitpick at later, or at least describe what I noticed wasn't the same anyways.
the thing with this is they did as close to the comic as they could get as a movie studio.
And their budget, of course, but yeah.
Without having to go like deep into royalties and paying for other names that other companies own. It was as close as it can get.
And speaking of which, I've heard some reviewers say, why didn't they use more known villains? And I'll tell you why. Because it was staying true to the comic, or at least somewhat anyways. Ajax is Deadpool's nemesis in his original comic run. I mean, that's not actually the Ajax from the comic, I will say, but just in general, Ajax is Deadpool's rival. And now Angel Dust, she was just thrown in. I don't know where she's from, but
yeah.
So yeah, this was a very enjoyable movie. I personally went and watched it twice. Once by myself and once with Wedge here.
Yeah, it's a really good movie if you like the character from the comic books. You'll really enjoy it because it captures it so well.
Yes.
That you can enjoy it if you like the comic books. Like a lot of comic book movies, if you really like the comic books, you probably don't like the movie. Because it's so different. This one's not like that, but this is also enjoyable if you've never heard of the comic books.
Yes.
It has that happy medium between being really enjoyable for the fans and being really enjoyable for just people wanting to see a movie.
Right.
Yeah, you know?
But yeah, so yeah, a lot of enjoyable lines in this movie. Basically, rating it is so hard for me because part of me does want to give it like a perfect 5 out of 5 or whatever, just because of how well it was done. But if we're talking basing it around general movie and enjoyment, it is definitely not the perfect movie.
No.
It's not no big budget film, so there are flaws in the movie. There's a few character flaws, budget flaws, a little CGI mess here and there. But enjoyment, if I was to base this on the people that like Deadpool character in general, just go see this movie. It's perfect for you, but as a general movie, I don't know. I'll break it down to the nitty gritty, and I think you will most likely enjoy this film. I will give it a 4.7 out of 5. I will break it down that much because there's not much I can say bad about this movie except the little nitpicky parts.
Yeah.
And that's where the 0.3 comes in. Or
Oh yeah. So that's kind of like how I want to put it. Like I'm not gonna give it a perfect rating because it's not the perfect movie, duh. But enjoyment factor, yeah, I was thoroughly enjoyed pretty much the entire movie. I didn't have any like dead spots where I was just kind of bored with it. Like it all kept flowing really nicely and kept you entertained pretty much every second, you know?
mm-hmm.
So that's really good, and for knowing like about the character and reading some of the comic books and being familiarized with the character, the movie holds pretty true to the character of keeping the character as it should be.
Agreed.
So I'm not gonna give it a 5 because it's not gonna happen. But I want to say I'm gonna give it a solid 4 because of how good it is and how well it keeps your attention, even though there are some spots where it's obviously not the greatest. And I'm really sad that it's not canon to the rest of the Marvel Universe.
Honestly, I could be a little biased, which is why my score is a bit higher. I'm a Deadpool fan, kind of. I have read his comics. So it was really hard for me to just not give it a perfect score, but I do want to acknowledge there are like certain little flaws in the movie. Like I said, there's some CGI messes in the movie due to not having a high budget, so you could definitely tell when there's a little bit of bad CGI placement.
Yeah.
And plus, like I said, the plot of the story is basic. You got a generic bad guy, or what feels like a generic bad guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's obviously stuff they could improve upon, but this movie was pretty much just about Deadpool, and that they got nearly perfectly.
If I could say anything about it, it set up the character so well for future development. Like, it's already, gonna get a sequel. It set the character up so well to already be established, have, like, the way his motives work, the way he thinks, everything pretty well established for, like, the next movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, most origin stories give you the origin, and then all the rest of the movies are still kind of explaining the origin, right? Or like explaining his motives, the way the character is, or just trying to build the character the rest of the movies.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be that way with this character, because they built up the character almost perfectly by the end of this movie. To where
Yeah.
everything else that happens in a next movie, I feel is just gonna be way story driven, just character, not like character development. I mean, they may have like changes in the story to develop the way he thinks throughout, but the way that they set it up was so perfect that they wouldn't have to do any character development. You know the character perfectly.
Yeah. Alright. So does that mean we can start talking about the details?
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, I should probably, hang on.
Yeah, I like the Jurassic Park Deadpool.
Yeah, that's like one of the first things I saw.
That's pretty funny.
I just want to put up a quick text on the screen.
An adventure. 65 million chimichangas in the making. That's nice.
Let's use that, I guess. Oh boy, wait, never mind. Let's use... Whoa. Sorry, making the... Come on. Thank you. Okay. Give me the... Whoa, did not want to stretch it out that far. If no one can see that, then oh well. So anyways, there's your spoiler alert.
Just wave it around the screen.
I can do that. Just like this. Okay, but yeah, let's dig right into the start of this movie. The opening credit scene, the one every reviewer is referring and everything, the best opening credit scene ever. Can you do you agree with them statements?
Starring a fully CGI character.
Yes. The opening credit scenes basically did not have any of the actors' names. It was more of kind of what they portrayed in the movie in the most basic way possible.
A British bad guy.
Yes. Starring a hot guy, a hot girl.
Yeah,
that's not the whole, produced by asshats.
Yeah. And like directed by an overly, oh man, what was it?
I don't know, but
It was, yeah, like an overpaid, like something. It was great.
Written by the real heroes here.
Yeah.
That's not. There were other things about the opening credits, sorry, that wasn't just why it was liked. It was, in general, the whole opening credit scene is just the still footage of one particular spot in the big action event that takes place at the beginning of the movie. And they throw in little Easter eggs into the opening credits as it goes, as it shows off this still action scene.
Tons. It's a full, like, 3D action scene that's paused in real time with the camera flying through, just looking at things.
Yeah.
And, like, all the things that it looks at are Easter eggs. Down to, like, a Green Lantern playing card. Or, like, character card. And
a coffee cup with someone's particular name on it that if you know who it is, you'd be able to guess who it is by just their last initial.
Yeah. It's really good. That opening scene just kind of really shows it what it is.
Right.
It's got Deadpool in like the weirdest like position.
Right.
In the middle of this fight scene, holding the guy by his underwear.
Yes.
Out the window of a rolling car.
He is also, with his other hand, where he's not holding the guy's underwear, has his two fingers poking out another guy's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's perfect.
And there's also a pretty out of the ordinary song playing while this opening credits is. If I was any good with music, I'd be able to tell you exactly what the song was. It's a popular song. I can't think for the life of me what it's exactly called or who it's by.
I'm trying to think of what it is too. I don't really remember the exact song. But oh man, did it have some funny songs in general just in it. The soundtrack to this movie is perfect.
Yeah, all the songs, even if you don't like the genre, you will most likely know most of the songs.
Yeah. Very true.
Alright, then right from the opening credits, we go straight into probably having Deadpool's probably one of the most funniest characters in this movie, even though he's not there a lot. Deadpool and the taxi driver.
Oh man, the taxi driver is one of my favorites. The way that he just talks to Deadpool and everything. And I like how Deadpool's like all friends with him in it. Like he makes like the best friends. And so you'd expect them to like share a pretty good friend relationship. And then the cab guy's like, oh, yeah, here's your stop, That'll be like $12.50 or something. Deadpool's like, I don't have any money, but how about a high five?
a Christmas high five.
Yeah. And then, I like how the taxi driver just responds to that with like, okay, I guess.
But gosh, that opening was pretty funny. It was just him messing around in the back of the cab and then climbing up front like you saw in the trailer with just a little bit added dialogue compared to what you saw in the trailer.
And I like how...
Speaking of which, most of the stuff that you see in this trailer you'll see in the first 15-20 minutes of this movie.
I like that. The trailer didn't like give anything away. It was literally like the first fight scene, which was like probably one of the best fight scenes.
Now there was a few other. The trailer did give away a few other spots later in the movie. It wasn't exactly like everything in the trailer wasn't. There was a few stuff, but most of the stuff in the trailers basically based around this big bridge fight scene. That's pretty much the first thing that goes down.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, it's probably my favorite action scene in this movie.
It has
Well-
the fight scene.
Well, okay, the ending was definitely had a bigger surrounding area that they fought in for the ending fight scene and stuff. But I feel like the beginning fight scene was more Deadpool personalized with it than he did in the end fight scene.
End fight scene, he's really driven by his feelings and his motivation. The beginning fight scene is him dancing around, you know, making jokes, just having fun with it. And then it has like probably the best ending to the fight scene when like Colossus comes in and he reaches back and he's like, "Dad?"
Keep in mind, he was touching Colossus's balls, so that is probably the most awkward thing ever.
And then yeah, that was pretty funny.
Man. But yeah, basically this first fight scene, it was awesome.
It was.
It was basically one of the running, well, I should say the running joke in this movie is Deadpool forgets his guns a lot, so he kind of forgot his gun, so he only had
12 bullets.
And you'd think it's funny because you think he's gonna come out being this kind of big badass, which at times he does pull off.
Yep.
But he starts out doing fine, shooting a few guys, counting down his bullets, then he starts shooting a guy and misses.
Yeah, I like how he's the whole time saying, well, I only have 12. I gotta really make them all count, you know? And then he misses a few times. And then when he finally hits the guy, what did the guy do? The guy did something and he got like mad at him, so he shot him a couple more times.
Yeah.
And then he was like,
worth it.
Worth it.
When he first shot and missed a few times, and then the bike guy drove away or until he turned around, he was like, bad Deadpool. Turns around, shoots a guy, good Deadpool.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
Which, by the way, just in general rule for all moviegoers, if you're gonna sit behind someone, don't say a quote to the movie before the movie says it, please.
For every quote, that's not good.
Had that experience today.
We get that you've seen the movie once or twice. We get that you like the movie enough to come back to watch it.
Awesome. Just don't
quote it every minute. And then laugh because you quoted it.
Anyways, minor tantrum.
Well, yeah, because when we got out of the theater, you asked me, what was the thing that you hated most about the movie? And I said, well, the people who sat behind us. Hands down, worst part of this movie. Yeah.
But okay. So, yes. So Deadpool kills all these bad guys and uses his very last bullet for that very famous flip 3 headshot, which was pretty awesome to see. Very satisfying to see, even though I've already seen it over and over in the trailers. It still was satisfying to see after the big the big countdown on bullets.
And he realizes that there's still one left.
Which, no, there wasn't.
No, one person left.
Oh, yeah.
The main guy, so he has to use his swords after that because he'd used all of his bullets.
Yeah, there was this one guy that I guess was, a mutant because the bullet just pretty much, kind of like the bullet hit, smushed down when he hit his head, and it didn't hurt him or kill him.
So the guy grabs knives and Deadpool's like, "Oh, you want to go knives, huh?" You know, and pulls out his swords. That was awesome.
Mm.
Kind of a little sad that fight scene didn't go on, because that was the quickest end to like a build up.
Yeah.
Like they really built that up. Like he peeled the bullet off, and he's like
rolled up his sleeves.
Oh, yeah, pulls out some knives, gets ready for like this epic fight. Literally, half a second later, Deadpool stabs him with 2 swords and holds him up in the air.
And just when you get a taste, it's storytelling time.
Oh man, that was hilarious. Best way of telling a story. Like, they really hit home that this movie was like a Valentine's Day love movie.
Yeah.
Like when it came out. So I like how as soon as he holds the guy up with the swords, he goes, "Now, I know your boyfriend told you this was a superhero movie, and you're wondering like, what kind of superhero movie starts off like this?" And he was like, "But it is a love story." And yes,
I am super, but I am no hero.
And technically, this is a murder.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
It was so good.
So yeah, then we get into the origin story, which honestly, the very beginning is probably the most boring part. And I mean that by when he first meets the girl and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's like the slowest part, kind of build up. But it takes a pretty drastic turn. Really soon after.
Pretty much the beginning part, you don't really need to know. It just shows him kind of. It opens up with like Ryan Reynolds or Wade Wilson. Basically, he's just. I guess he has a job. He was doing a job for this. I don't know, girl, or I don't even know how old this girl is. Probably.
Just had a stalker, and he's like.
Yeah.
Just getting rid of the stalker, which was. I thought that was a pretty funny scene.
It was. Then it basically, after he's done with the job, he goes to the bar. Then, after a little bit of trying to plan to get another guy killed, because they bet on people to die in this bar and call it, haha, a Deadpool.
Half, kind of from the comic books, half.
Yes.
Not.
Right.
One of my gripes about it.
Yeah, in the comic books, the Deadpool was originally in the hospital. Well, I shouldn't say hospital, but
Weapon X.
no, it was.
It was after.
Since I'm gonna be nitpicky, after Deadpool went through Weapon X, got injected with the healing factor, they sent him off to this little, like, underground facility boot camp for them to torture him just to see how far his regeneration ability could go. And basically, all these people they had in this facility, they had a Deadpool for to bet who was gonna be the one to die next.
Yeah.
Between all these people in this facility where they torture you to just test you and stuff. And that wasn't brought into this movie, but
The Deadpool concept was, I just didn't like the way that it was in the movie.
yeah.
Didn't really make sense, as in where that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm still happy that they had a nod to it,
Right.
but I just feel like they should have done it a different way.
Right. Anyways, he meets Vanessa before she becomes Copycat. Yeah, she is, I think she was a thief or something. I don't really remember her character much in the comics, but anyways, she's a prostitute. Gotta get them, yeah, rated R people. She's a prostitute.
Which quickly progresses into a very fantastic relationship.
Yes. How would you guys like to watch a 1-year sex montage?
Basically.
And don't let other... I should have probably said this in the review section, but don't let other people fool you into thinking this is some really, really hard R stuff. It actually was pretty tame in a R-rated sense.
Yeah, it's not near as bad as everyone said.
People are kinda overestimating, I guess? Or
Over exaggerated.
yes, there we go.
Yeah, it's definitely not as bad as everyone said. I've seen way worse.
Anyways, you'd think this sex montage would be this like really hardcore porno type stuff going on for an R-rated movie, or
It's
hard
more of
R.
It's more of a joke than anything.
Yes, because in most of these montages, they're wearing something over their parts to not make them naked, or not completely naked anyways.
And they're making jokes.
Yes. Like, each theme is making a joke or reference of a different sex position or sex
Or
theme.
holiday.
Sex theme, I guess.
Or
Yeah,
holiday.
That's what I meant. Holidays. They was doing holidays.
Yeah, because I like the word. I thought the funniest part was when there's like they're abstinent for like the day for Lent. That was pretty funny.
Yes.
Happy Lent, and then the next scene back to the thing. It was so funny.
Right. But yeah, gosh. Let's see. Let's skip ahead a little. I think we get go. Yeah. So then, I think pretty much after that little introduction to the love and the love story in this movie,
They transition so quickly because it goes straight from mercenary meeting the love and spend like having all like that year with the person he loves to straight cancer.
you you would think that would make the movie less relatable to the characters, or make the kind of silly that they felt like they got together that fast, but maybe it's
Marriage cancer.
maybe it's because they did the montage thing, but it didn't feel too awkward, I guess.
No, it didn't.
Which was good because this is like an hour and 50-minute movie, so they had to move relatively quickly, I guess.
Yeah, which it worked really well.
Sometimes I felt the movie was over a little bit too quickly.
Sometimes I would have liked us to have seen some longer parts, like just elongated a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially like the scene with the fight scene with the guy with the knives. Just some of the other scenes I wish were just a little bit longer.
Right. But yeah, so at some point in between them getting married, or it actually jumps back to the bridge in between that stuff, and to where Deadpool confronts the main enemy Ajax, which
Gets interrupted.
yes. Apparently,
But-
apparently Colossus is trying to get Deadpool, or has been trying to get Deadpool to join the X-Men.
And be a good guy, and that leads to a pretty funny fight scene between Deadpool and Colossus, if you want to call it a fight scene. Mainly Colossus standing there and Deadpool mutilating himself on Colossus.
Yes. It's funny. I mean, Deadpool is probably the most overpowered character ever made, yet they somehow managed to actually make him feel like he's not perfect, which is nice for the movie to do.
Yeah.
Like, he actually gets beat down pretty bad in this. Like, he is not the perfect fighter.
Oh no. It reminds me of the scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail with the knight who keeps getting his limbs cut off, and it's just a flesh wound.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
Both like hands broken, so he breaks his foot and goes, "Oh yeah, well I'll show you some fight moves," you know.
Ever heard of the one man ass kicking contest or something like that?
One-legged. It was something about like one leg, and then Colossus just slaps him in the face.
And then yeah. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. The whole reason for him fighting Colossus was because the bad guy he had stopped, he got distracted by Colossus and then got away, and then that's when Deadpool tried beating up Colossus.
Does the whole like 7 take?
Oh yeah.
That was pretty funny. What? What?
Yes, they used CGI for Deadpool's eyes, and so they made it his white pupil eyes on his mask kinda show expressions in the movie.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
Oh boy, let's see. Anyways, it cuts back to basically after Deadpool mutilates himself, he gets cuffed and Deadpool's gonna take him back to see Xavier.
Which one? The
Yes,
which one?
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yes. Since there's 2 Xaviers that's been played on the X-Men franchise, Stewart, and then there's the guy that's
McAvoy. Yeah,
Yeah.
which one? Stewart or McAvoy? These timelines are confusing.
Yes.
Have you guys ever seen 127 Hours? And then just cuts off his hand.
And we realize we're discussing the movie point by point, but that's only because we enjoyed it so much. We expect you guys that are here have already seen the movie, and we are just giving you our impressions. So if you haven't seen the movie, go and watch it, because I'm sure it will be much better than listening to us tell it.
And go over every single detail. Because there's just so many that you have to see.
Yeah, we're just going over all this detail because, like I said, we did enjoy this movie.
And it's the details we wanted to see.
Yes, we want to talk about this movie. Basically, this is what we do with each other when we're not on this stream. We nerd out chatting about this kind of stuff.
Discussion after discussion.
But yeah, okay. So yes, the 127-hour reference. Wasn't sure what that movie was, but Wedge knew.
Yeah.
And so basically, Deadpool decided he would cut off his own hand and did a backflip swan dive back into behind the garbage into a garbage can.
Sorry for bleeding on your garbage.
Which you could probably take. Now that I think about it, you know who else took a swan dive into the back of a garbage truck?
Who?
Shredder in the original Ninja Turtles movie. That's how they killed him. He fell into the back of a garbage truck, then was smushed.
That's pretty funny.
Then in the second movie, he came back by popping his hand out of a compact garbage spot in the junkyard. But that's going a little off topic, but that's what stuck in my mind when I said that. Anyways, yeah, Deadpool escapes from in a garbage truck. Classic.
And when he gets out of the garbage truck, it's probably one of the best fourth wall breaks.
Yeah. Before that happens, though, this is pretty much how everything gets caught up. They go back and actually tell probably the most interesting part to the origin, where Deadpool actually goes into this secretive facility that he's been invited to participate in order to heal
his cancer and become a superhero.
Yes. He
makes it clear. Super suits not gonna be green and not animated.
Yes. But the way he says it makes it very funny, which you probably already seen in the trailer. Oh man.
And then the running joke of there's something in your teeth with Ajax.
It's the stupidest joke, but it worked. Like
it did.
Like, you wouldn't think something like making you look jokes would really land, but
they do in this because
it felt very, I don't know. I guess it kind of just came in as like a WTF moment, like, where did this come from?
Because he's like, he's got all this like pain or whatever. Like the moment when he first says it is he's strapped down and can't talk. He has a sock in his mouth basically, and they're like holding him down to inject him with the stuff, and he's screaming and like moving and keeps trying to get him to let him talk. Once they finally remove it, he goes, "There's something in your teeth." They're like, what? He's like, oh man, it was killing me for the longest time. It's right there. Then he looks in the mirror. Made you look.
You know what I just noticed? It's apparently Christmas on our stream.
Oh yeah.
Whoops.
Good job. Good job. Whatever, it works. It's a fourth wall break. Let's just put it that way, since he talks about Christmas a lot.
Okay. All right.
Everyone who's seen it will get it. They'll think we're really clever,
right?
And not just dumb for leaving it up there.
Well, now they won't. Thanks a lot.
They're not supposed to hear this.
Okay, well, alright, so this underground facility, laboratory facility, whatever you want to call it, this is where the torturing happens, which I'm so glad Wade got tortured. Okay, that sounds awful, but it's how it should have went.
Oh yeah, you should definitely be tortured all the time.
Granted, as I said before, there are a little bit comic book difference. Like, in the comic book, the reason he got his insane humor was he was tortured so much for testing his regeneration ability that to fill in the pain of it all and just everything, he was using humor as a defense mechanism, and that's why he was very humorous. In this movie, he's kind of started out humorous already as a character, and then just kind of took it a little deeper, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely started out as like trying to make jokes and... Oh yeah.
Which works because as a movie, this particular plot story would have probably been boring if he didn't have that
put a joke in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so they was torturing Wade, all these I guess we're to explain the movie's based on how he gets his powers over the way the comic book, like, you know of Weapon X and the healing factor Wolverine. That's not in this at all. No mention of Wolverine's healing factor or Weapon X.
Or Wolverine in general.
It's all about Hugh Jackman.
It is all about Hugh Jackman and Pulverine.
It
rhymes with Pulverine.
That's how he got his movie started. Was through the help of Pulverine.
It rhymes with Pulverine. By the way, he's got a fantastic set of like pearls down under.
Anyways, so the way they do it in this story is apparently anyone can get mutant powers. Apparently. So I guess everyone has a different reaction to this specific serum that they inject into you. But in order for it to work, your body has to be like under some kind of extreme stress or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it triggers a mutation depending on how your genes are, or unique to each person.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. They was doing all these torturing to try to trigger the mutation to happen, but it just wasn't doing. They kept on doing more and more different torture methods, and
because he kept running his mouth.
Yeah.
So that's why they kept trying to go harder and harder, because he was like, "Is this all you got? You know? I thought you were gonna be mean."
And then finally he's like, how much worse can you get than round-the-clock torture?
Yeah.
Then they finally pretty much locked him in this canister that cut off his air supply, or simulated it anyways.
Enough to where he was in a constant state of can't breathe, but still alive and not dying.
Yeah. And that finally triggered his mutation. And go figure, something happens to his body. It decides to go all Freddy Krueger. They do make a brief mention about saying that it's the cancer, but they never really explain deeply which that is a
It's-
small part that kind of irritated me.
It's one of
because
my gripes too, that they didn't really.
They didn't explain to, say, the casual moviegoer why Deadpool came out looking like he did.
Yeah.
And it's because when the serum kicked in, which was the healing factor, it kick-started his cancer to start affecting him like 10 times quicker. So in order for his healing factor to counteract that, it had to then go just as strong to try to fight the cancer to keep him alive.
Yeah.
So you have this constant cancer that's eating away and this constant healing factor that's working.
It's keeping him alive. And keeping it fought off, but not dormant. Because it's still rampant.
Which this is probably why Deadpool is considered to have the superior healing factor compared to Wolverine. Because the cancer made the healing factor kick it up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's how I see it, anyways. Anyone else in the comments can pretty much tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. Anyways, that would be the origin part of the movie, and then they tie it all up in a fast-forwarding method.
Which leads to the best fourth wall break. After he got his costume, and he's trying out a white costume.
The unicorn?
Unicorn.
You said the fast-forwarding led to the best fourth wall break.
Yeah, I was talking about like my favorite fourth wall break was the fourth wall break and a fourth wall break.
Oh, there was
like
there was a small scene that got cut in the fast-forwarding where Deadpool was kind of pleasuring himself to a stuffed unicorn.
Oh yeah, you weren't supposed to see that. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
And then after he tried his suit or whatever and met Blind Al,
Yeah.
you know, he's like, oh yeah, and by the way, remember that blind lady from the laundromat?
I live with her.
Yeah, and then it goes to him in the laundromat, and he's like, fourth wall break and a fourth wall break? That's like 16 walls. And then it goes to him, and he walks in, and...
Speaking of which, they play Blind out kind of differently. I mean, it's kind of the same. It's just not addressed as much as... They feel more like roommates, where originally Blind Al was basically Deadpool's prisoner that basically took her prisoner in her own house, I think. But anyways, it doesn't feel like they really addressed that part in this movie, though he very well could have, I guess. They seem to have the same kind of relationship, though, which feels nice. You just don't really see Blind Al much in this movie, though.
And he ends it with, I hid, 1,500 ounces of cocaine in the house, next to the cure for blindness. Have fun.
How did you enjoy them bickering about what furniture to get?
That was pretty funny.
And by the way, Blind Al hates Craigslist.
Yeah, that was... And done.
Baby hand.
That was so weird.
So apparently, when Deadpool grows back slowly over time, and basically, they actually showed like his hand going through like a puberty type state, growing. It was this small, like little baby hand.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't remember exactly what she said. She's like, I know I'm blind or whatever, but is that a baby hand I feel? or is your hand really small? Nah, yeah, it is a little bit. Now you might want to leave. 'Cause I bet it feels huge in this hand.
A lot of adult jokes in this movie, but for some reason they don't come off annoying. They actually kind of work, oddly.
Well, it's all about the character.
Let's see. Anyways, after getting all of this, like, I guess backstory stuff out of the way, they finally, which this particular scene, I think it took them about 20 minutes to get through, like the whole laboratory thing, and then about the fighting montage to build his costume.
Yeah.
And so they finally get back to the bridge. Or not the bridge, but the garbage truck. He exits the garbage truck, then, of course, gives the line that the fourth wall break and the fourth wall break. And then we get to the taxi where it fast forwards.
Mm-hmm.
Or wait, I got that backwards, but whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
after he grows his hand back, he comes up with a plan to get her back, but that's the point where it's currently caught up and he's struggling with his feelings to go see her.
Yes.
Because the way he looks.
Yeah.
And meets up with T.J. Miller character who very accurately describes how he looks.
Yes.
And then they come up with I like how they did the thing with they both said at the same time, I know there's only one thing we can do from now, or I can do from this. And Deadpool's like, I'm gonna go kill him, and TJ Miller's like, star in your own horror movies. And he's like, wait, what? Oh yeah, you look terrifying.
Then something got brought up about putting on a mask, and TJ Miller's like, yeah, do that. You should really do that. A really thick one.
I like the point where TJ Miller really it really hits him that he's not going to win the Deadpool. He's like, oh man, I bet all my money on you to die. And now you're not going to die at all. Man, I really wish you would. Mostly for other people's sakes. And then they're coming up with a name, and Deadpool, Wade Wilson's like looking at the board, and he's really starting to realize it, He's like,
they got a couple of weird names, like they based them around other people's name. Shoot, what were they? Do you remember any? There was
like Wade Smartmouth Wilson.
Wade Wisecracking Wilson.
Yeah, that one, and then Wade. There was another one.
It starts with the S, I think, but I can't remember. But I also remember that it rhymed with another person's name, another superhero's name. But anyways.
I like the settlement upon Deadpool, where he's like, Captain Deadpool. And TJ Miller just looks at him, he's like, hey, no, just Deadpool. Just Deadpool.
Yeah. Okay, let's see, I thought that... Okay, I was gonna say something, but now I don't remember what.
I don't know, but that leads to this. It seems like the movie goes really quick from this point on,
Yeah.
where he goes to the X-Men house, knocks on the door, and of course,
That hasn't happened yet till his girlfriend gets kidnapped.
was it? I thought he went to.
No, he went to get their help because his girlfriend got kidnapped because...
I thought it. Oh, I thought it was before she got kidnapped.
No.
Oh, that's right. He takes T.J. Miller with him when he's going to go tell her, and then
Yeah.
he kind of wimps out a little bit, and she gets kidnapped, and then he just gets really mad.
Speaking of which, Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, DJ.
So yeah. Stan Lee cameo.
Well, yeah, you can't go wrong with the Stan Lee cameo. You know my thought on the Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah.
I was really hoping it would be different.
You know? You want to tell the world what you wanted it to be?
Ideally, I was hoping Stan Lee would be a fourth wall break, where Stan Lee was like on the street selling comic books, and Wade Wilson walks up, and the comic books are Deadpool comic books, and he goes, the newest issue, and grabs it and starts like reading it or whatever. I was really hoping that would be like the fourth wall break.
Yeah.
That was like ideally what I was just like hoping for so bad, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. Alright, so anyways, since Deadpool didn't, or Wade Wilson at this point, did not tell or talk to Vanessa, she ended up getting tricked into the back alley, and then guess what? The big bad British villain kidnapped her.
Yep.
Speaking of which, this movie is very comic booky with what the villain does, because the villain's... It's a dumb move because... I don't know. And
Villains are too nice in every movie.
Well, I hear they're getting more realistic like in the comic book movies now.
Yeah.
But like I said, this movie's villain is very comic bookish in that they have... Their plan is never to just kill straight away. It's always taking someone hostage and then waiting to die.
And and then put them in some elaborate torture plan. Yeah.
It's almost... Which isn't bad, it's kind of funny actually. I can't help but keep thinking back to like movies like Spaceball or some other movie where they have a over-the-top villain that that practically makes fun of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see what. Okay, what was we talking about? Oh yeah, she got kidnapped.
Yeah, which is when he.
They make Deadpool get angry.
And that's probably one of my favorite scenes is when he gets mad. And he's just yelling and he's, they took her, you know? And then he's just like, what do you want to do? And he's like, get me guns. And he's like, which guns? All the guns.
Before that, while he's going through his tantrum, the phone starts ringing. And he's like, get that effing thing or something like that.
Turn it off.
Or,
I'm gonna get even more mad.
Or I think he said, find it or something. I don't know.
It was
either way. He was mixing cussing with yelling, which is making it humorous.
Yeah.
With just how he was saying it.
Get me guns.
Like
Which guns?
It wasn't necessarily like comedy. It was a serious moment, but I don't know.
The way it was done was really comedic. Like once he packs up the guns, he gets to go and to leave, and T.J. Miller's character is like, "Yeah, I'd go with you, man, but I just don't want to," you know. And Deadpool's like, "Okay."
Then he goes to the X Mansion and knocks on the, or didn't even get a chance to knock on the door. Negasonic Teenage Warhead opens up right before he knocks.
And then he says, you look like you look straight out of Alien 3.
Roughly, yeah. I don't remember what she said, but yeah.
And then she's like,
damn, you're old, or something like
and
that.
He's like, ha! Fake laugh to cover up my pain. It's a really big house, and I only ever see 2 of you. It's like the studio couldn't afford another X-Man.
So much funniness.
It was really good. Those jokes that they put in there to really reference just how little the team was, how it's a movie, how long this has been in production. Just, yeah.
Then we get to see the cab driver again.
Which is probably the funnier parts. Like, probably one of the funniest parts. This part.
And it's not just Colossus being able to barely fit in the back seat drinking a it looked like he was drinking something, I think. I think he was drinking out of the straw of something.
He was. I like how he's talking to the guy and they hit like a bump and there was like a scream and what's that? That's coming from the trunk, you know, like my cousin's in the trunk.
Yeah, basically the first time Deadpool was in the cab, they discussed about a girl the cab driver liked, but his cousin was more handsomer. Yes. and such. And Deadpool told him that he needs to hang on to her and just, I don't remember what he told her to do. Or told him to.
In that first scene in the cab, Deadpool gives like the crudest, accurate summary of the entire movie. About like the love thing.
Yeah.
I like how in the beginning he basically gives you a full summary of the movie.
It had something to do with then he I don't know what made him say that, but it was one of the funnier ones in the cab where he said, shoot, I can't think, but I don't know. I can't think of it.
Trying of which cab scene? The first one or the second one?
The first one where he said like, I think it was a pancake syrup lady or whatever.
Oh,
Tastes
oh.
like or
No, what's that smell? And he's like, daffodil something. He's like, man, that smells. Or he's like, no, not that. Or that's really good. And he says the smell, and then he's like, no, the girl. And then he tells her about that, and he's like, yeah, see, you want to hold on to that love, because when you do, the whole world just tastes like daffodils. When you don't, it tastes like Aunt Jemima after a sweaty day.
I think it was, I don't know.
It was something like that.
Yes. And he's like,
Oh, what? What does she taste like?
it's like it was really funny because he was trying to say it's not the point, it's just it's bad. It's bad.
it's bad. It's not good.
But anyway, so
That's the point I'm trying to get across here. It's just not good.
anyways, in this later cab scene, apparently he tied up his cousin and threw him in the trunk.
I'm just doing what you told me, Deadpool. And then he looks back to Colossus. I did not tell him to do that. In exactly those words.
Then you have a little sequence where he's trying to sound all good and stuff, and he whispers
Slips
to the
in.
little things to the cab driver saying how proud he is of him and to kill him.
You should never do that. I'm so proud of you. Release him. Let him out of the trunk. Fine, and kill him. Keeps going on. Yeah. That was funny.
Then we get to the final battle scene area, where apparently X is going to give it to you.
And Deadpool forgets his guns.
Again, after the cab leaves.
Which is one of the funnier scenes because he calls the cab driver. And he's like, cab driver's trying to fiddle with the phone to answer it. Gets into a truck pulls in front of him, he slams on the brake, and then some guy rear ends him. And all you hear is his cousin screaming from the trunk.
Yes. So to say there was no answer so Deadpool could get his guns. I do want to say, if you looked up information about this movie, you will know that Fox, during the making, actually, I guess, got a little cold feet while this movie was being made, and they pulled about $7 million more from the budget, so I guess there was supposed to be more firefights in the movie, but since they had that budget pulled, they just made the two forgetting the gun jokes instead.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, we just have to do the old-fashioned way with swords and being shoot. Well, the equivalent of being really skilled, whatever word he used.
He said maximum effort.
Oh, there we go. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's like, cue the music, and then X is gonna give it to you, starts playing again. Which I still say that was probably chosen because of the whole X-Men universe, and X is gonna give it to him. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm gonna say it makes sense. Alright, ending fight scene. We pretty much have two different battles going on. And a little Bob cameo in the middle. We have Angel Dust, which is gonna be taking on Colossus, Um,
which is a pretty funny scene.
Deadpool kills off pretty much a bunch of baddies, and then eventually gets up to where he takes on his main rival, or the guy that did that to him, Ajax. Also, he could heal the face, by the way. Because he was told earlier that the guy could heal his
That's
face. Or his skin.
Which is basically his main motive in the beginning is he just doesn't want to look like a freak.
Yeah.
So he's going to go get him to fix him up. Which leads to a pretty funny ending.
Yeah. Anyways, there was a few pretty good spots between Colossus and Angel Dust.
Yeah.
Negasonic was kind of just helping out both sides, Deadpool and Colossus at different times.
Leads to one of the funnier parts, I think, in the movie where she gets under like a big metal plate. It's like, Deadpool, hop on, and he gets on there and she blows up and he's flying through the air, just woo! It's
though before that happens, Ajax's name is Francis in this movie, and you'll be hearing that name a lot throughout the movie. There's this running joke he does, or not joke, but he keeps telling Deadpool to asking him what his name is. Kind of like taunting Deadpool. And right before this whole ending battle starts, he's like, I'm gonna fucking spell it out for him.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Basically. So he does. In Dead Bodies.
Yeah. And like I said, there was a small cameo of Bob from the comics. If you do read the comics, probably a lot of people will not know what that is or who Bob is. Anyways, Bob started out, he was a henchman for Hydra in the comics, and Deadpool's running with Deadpool got, I don't know where this happened, but Deadpool was breaking into Hydra in the comics and basically killing off everyone. And I don't know, he somehow ended up kind of like, I think, having Bob be his like teammate for a while, or kind of like Deadpool's sidekick that he throws under the bus a lot. Anyways, he makes a brief cameo where they have an exchange of small words. Then Deadpool headbutts him to knock him out. And then, Deadpool spells out Francis with dead bodies, gets flown up to the top of what looks like this crashed airship, which may be a reference to the actual Avengers. It just doesn't have like SHIELD logo or anything due to copyright.
Definitely looks like it though.
Oh, hey, Elite Echo. We are pretty much just discussing the movie of Deadpool. I don't know if you've seen it or not. But yeah, it's been kind of a while.
That is definitely true.
I basically just
major spoilers.
Yeah. Which we're almost to the end anyways, I think.
We are, actually.
Let's see, Nice. It's actually a pretty awesome movie.
It's a really fun time actually.
Yes. So anyways, you have the rest of Colossus, and after Negasonic sends Deadpool up, she eventually goes over and helps out Colossus. But before that, I guess, you have this final showdown between Ajax and Deadpool, and yeah,
It's
he
to
does.
me the least interesting fight scene
Yeah,
because it's not regular personalized Deadpool. It's he just wants to save the girl.
yeah.
That's all that fight scene is. But it ends pretty quick.
Yeah, so, in typical fashion, the bad guy encases the girl, instead of kills her in front of Deadpool, like a really bad person would do. He taunts Deadpool. So they have a little swords cross axe duel. Watch they both get a few punches in, and yeah. In the end, instead Deadpool gets stabbed in the head. His girlfriend gets free and ends up, well, yeah, anyways, his girlfriend knocks out, well, helps Deadpool. It just, it, and then, which leads to the Ajax turning around and knocking, Deadpool's, Vanessa down. I guess I should call her by her name. Which leads to a funny moment where they implement Deadpool vision into the movie.
Where he sees the unicorn and
Because
everything.
at the moment, Deadpool has like a knife stuck in his head, and he's kind of woozy. And
Yeah.
they just end up playing this, I don't know, it's a famous love song, but you just, it's a WTF moment.
Major in the movie. It's a big left turn, like right in the middle of the movie. Yeah.
But anyways, the thing, Deadpool does come to, and then they start fighting again, which is where Negasonic Teenage Warhead turns just into that, a warhead, and basically pretty much blows up
Stops all the fights.
So then the airship starts collapsing down after the big explosion. So then just you get these few little funny situations for Deadpool as he's trying to get Vanessa,
Save Vanessa.
yeah, into the container while he's also almost falling off the airship.
Which he successfully does.
Yeah, the airship crumbles down and pretty much makes the scrapyard an even more wasteland of scrap than what it was. Everyone comes out okay, and leads to probably a funny moment, one of the ones I laughed out loud at, just because it kind of happened at random. Deadpool was yelling, "Woohoo over here," and then right in the middle as he's saying, "Do you know how awesome?" Right at that point where he was in the middle of
That
saying awesome,
was awesome.
and he
Gets tackled.
he gets tackled off the place he was standing on by Ajax. He just kind of came out of nowhere as he was saying that, and it made me crack up.
My favorite part of that is the camera is like zoomed out, right? And
Yeah.
you can see Colossus and Negasonic Warhead and Vanessa standing there, and Deadpool's off in the distance. And when he gets tackled, I like that none of them move.
Right.
Like how they just don't care. Like, he gets tackled, and they're just like, huh.
Right. And then we get right almost to the very final spot. Well, it is the final spot. So then Deadpool's actually gets the upper hand and starts beating down on Ajax pretty much to the point where he has him at gunpoint with the one gun he had.
Tucked away.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's when he has the conversation with Ajax of, you're gonna, make me back to normal, cure this thing. And Ajax like, you, do you really think I could cure that?
You're a bigger idiot than I thought.
Yeah.
Or you're an idiot for thinking that. See, I don't know. It was one of them.
And it's just like, nothing can cure that. And then Deadpool responds with,
So you mean
You mean to say that that you can't do the thing that is the only reason I'm keeping you alive? And then you get Colossus walk up for one of the funnier moments.
Yes, Deadpool's about ready to shoot him, and then Colossus stops him. Basically give him the speech about, it only takes 5, or basically to just, that it only takes a few moments to be a real hero.
A superhero isn't about being a superhero every minute of every day. It's about doing the 4 or 5 things that really make you a hero.
That matter, yeah.
Yeah, that matter. And in the middle of that, Deadpool just pulls the trigger. Which leads to Colossus throwing up. Why would you do that? You were just going on and on. Yeah, I'll watch out for the other 4 times.
But yeah, then in the last attempt before it goes to the then in the last attempts before it goes to the credits, it gets in one more fourth wall break by narrating how the camera is zooming out and getting a wide shot, acknowledging that it's the ending scene and stuff.
That and the picture of Hugh Jackman stapled to his face.
Oh, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, when
I forgot about
Vanessa's
that.
Standing there and it's like, why would you not? He's like, I'm horrifying to look at. You wouldn't like me anymore. She's like, well, you don't know that or whatever. And so she peels up his mask to see a picture of Hugh Jackman stapled to his face. He was like, oh yeah, behind that mask too. It's like a band-aid. You just gotta pull them out. Be quick about it.
Well, if you guys actually watched all this, I'm talking to you, YouTube, then you pretty much ruined the whole movie for yourself. Good job. If you haven't watched it.
Hopefully you'd already seen it, because it's a fantastic experience.
And now, the ending, the first ending credits, like not the normal ending credits, but the mini ending credits thing that they did with the Deadpool drawing.
The actual, like, every movie has like the animated credits and then like the actual credits. Like they have the animated credits for like all the main actors, you know what I mean? And then to the
we're
other
we're having a
ones.
fourth wall break in chat.
But we recognize it. It's like a fourth wall break with a fourth wall break.
But yeah. Anyways, yeah, the anime end credit scene was pretty well done. Then, of course, there was end credit scene, which you can call it two. It was more of just one big extended one, but
Yeah.
basically the end credits was a Ferris Bueller's Day Off reference to its end credit scene.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much
He's in a robe and
yeah, pretty much a reenactment of it.
with talking about like a Deadpool 2 sequel.
Not without asking the people in the movie why they were still here.
Why are you still here? It's over. Go home. Shoot, go home.
You're expecting some end sequence for the next upcoming sequel? What? Samuel L. Jackson with an eye patch? Or something like that?
Yeah. Oh, and in the sequel, we're gonna have Cable.
That's the only official thing we have to go on now for the sequel.
We do, and that they're gonna star someone like maybe Dolph Lundgren, or oh man, what was the name of the woman? That was really bugging me that I couldn't remember it, because it was pretty funny.
Anyways, so even though we told you the movie, there's still a couple little things that I want to point out, like, for everyone that's been paying attention, Deadpool is the biggest movie out right now. It has exceeded expectations at making more money than what they really expected.
Definitely.
This was a $50 or $60 million budget movie, and so far, from the last known record, it made like 132.7 million in the United States, I think, but worldwide it's made over 300 million in the first 3 opening days.
You were reading that list of all like the accomplishments of the movie, and they were reaching.
Yeah. But marketing was so well done for this.
It was.
I mean, they went out of their way to market this movie. I mean, Ryan Reynolds himself went out of the way because they made little TV spots where Ryan played Deadpool in these little TV spots for marketing.
They did so good with that.
Let's see. I mean, Fox has already greenlit a sequel even before this movie came out because of how well it was being received, or talked about, anyways. I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So they already got the sequel greenlited to bring back the director, which this was his first time directing a movie. So kudos to him.
Did a pretty good job.
Which he is also a Deadpool fan, much like Ryan Reynolds.
Which is good. That's what you need in the movie.
They want to bring back they want to bring back. They're bringing back the writers and Ryan Reynolds for sure. They're hoping the director will come back. They're trying to get the director, I think.
Gotcha.
Which he more than likely will.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was a really long discussion breakdown of this movie, so...
It was.
Thank you for...
If you haven't seen it, please go see it. It was...
Oh.
Our retelling / opinions and / review thing does not give the movie justice.
Yeah. I believe our telling wasn't as funny.
No, not nearly. And probably got some things wrong. Who cares? Go watch the movie instead.
The internet cares.
Yeah, well, the internet can go watch the movie.
But yeah, thank you for joining us. For those few people that did join us on here, and thank you to everyone on YouTube that will be viewing this. Have a nice day.
And a good weekend.